Welcome to Healing the Mother Wound. This is a series about mother wounds, and we're going to get into that because let me first preface this by saying this is a common situation that I've been seeing come up for a lot of women, especially a lot of women of color, and it's a conversation that I feel we need to have because there's so much shame that I personally have experienced, and I'm also seeing in other women that there's a lot of shame around talking about the discord between their mother and themselves. Because I think society, I've said in other videos, society has this concept of motherhood motherhood should be nurturing, and it should be unconditional love, and it should be the first relationship that you experience where you feel that unconditional love, right? And for a lot of women, that has not been the case. So I want to talk about that. And in this series, I'm going to break down what mother wounds are. I'm going to break down the different activities that we're going to do to help us work through these mother wounds. I don't know if you're just starting your journey or if you've been in therapy before, or if, you're new to this work, doing the inner work, I guess you can say. But I want to be able to break things down in a way that it gives you actual practice, things that you can do to work through the grief, the sadness, the anger of a mother wound. I always encourage you to seek professional help. And again, I know there are some people who, like, therapy is expensive. It can be. Let me reframe that. Therapy can be expensive, especially for people who don't really make a lot of money or don't have a salary to fit it into their budget. So I'm going to do my best to provide some free or sliding scale resources from people that I know that you can reach out to at least get some kind of coaching, or at least connect you to a community who can see you while you're in doing this work. So I always encourage you to seek your own professional help. I am a therapist, however, I'm not your therapist, okay? So I want you to also understand that this is not therapy per se, but these are therapeutic tools that I use, and also from my own lived experience of working through a mother wound, to help me process the stuff that comes up with looking at this relationship. And then the last thing I want to say is it's really important to study for yourself. I know lived experience is a form of experience, yes, but there are a lot of people who will maybe are not as well studied or well informed on the topic. I do my best to study as much as I can, to ask questions, to look at other clinicians and coaches and specialists in this field to get their input and information, and just understand deeper on a more embodied level how to help people who deal with the things that I talk about. But it's important to know that just because somebody's talking with passion or fervor, or they're saying something as if it's Bible, like they're very, astute in what they're saying, does not necessarily mean that they are studied, does not mean that they are well informed. And also they could be wrong, including myself. So I encourage you to do your own studies, to do your own observations of self, and to read. Yeah, we gotta read, y'all. Okay, we gotta read. So those are my disclaimers before we get into the video. Now, I want to make it to where you actually have activities, like I said, actual activities that you can do to help you process this, and breaking it down as opposed to just giving you generic advice on what to do without telling you how to do it. So if you want to do the journaling activity, I suggest that you pause this video, go grab a journal, grab a pencil or a pen, and come on back, sit on down, because I have my journal, because I will ramble. Okay, if I don't have points and stuff listed out, I'll go on and on and on. So go grab a journal, a pen, a pencil, and let's jump into Mother Wounds, episode 1. talk about mother wounds, obviously. I personally feel that a mother wound is probably the deepest wound that you will ever have to work through or heal from. And for a lot of people, it can take years. It can take a life. It can be a lifelong journey of having to work through the stuff that comes up every now and then. And that's even to say that like you become fully, quote unquote, fully healed, which is kind of a concept that I don't really believe in, because we're always healing. We're always working through the trauma of certain things that have scarred us, right? And it's not about healing or doing away with the triggers, quote unquote, or the behaviors. It's about learning how to sit through them, learning how to manage yourself and regulate yourself when you meet these triggers. So mother wounds, again, I feel are some of the deepest wounds to heal, because it is literally the person who created you in their womb. There is a deep feeling or an unconscious like gut feeling that maybe this person didn't like you, or maybe your mother disapproved of you for whatever reason. And again, this is the person who grew you in her body and was responsible for protecting you and caring for you as a child. And that is a direct threat to your survival. If the person who's supposed to protect you also doesn't like you, that's a direct threat to your survival. Like you're kind of like on the chopping block at any moment. So this is a deep pain. And I want to acknowledge that. It's not something that I take lightly. And I also don't think it's necessarily something that you should take lightly. And now it can be a beautiful journey. It can be easy. However, I know that there are a lot of people who have very severed or fragmented relationships with their mother. So I just want to state that, and validate people who are in this space. So what are mother wounds? I have my definition. I've looked at other people's definitions as well. But my definition is the emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual pain or trauma a mother passes down to her children. Now, in this case, of course, I'm talking to my ladies, I'm talking to my women folk. However, I want to make it known that mother wounds are not gender specific. Like, it's coming from the mother or the maternal figure, yes. However, anybody can have a mother wound. He, she, they, them, anybody can have a mother wound. So I am particularly going to talk about how it affects women and how it impacts women, because that's the community that I mostly serve. So, and what causes mother wounds? There's a lot of things that can cause a mother wound, okay? But remember, it is this inkling feeling that either the person who grew you in their womb or the person who was responsible for taking care of you, mothering you, your maternal figure, did not like you, did not approve of you, or did not mother you in the ways that you needed. Now, I want to make sure I put in that last line, because some people have mother wounds from losing their mother, right? After a mother passes away, or after a mother, for whatever reason has to leave. Maybe she was incarcerated. Maybe she lived in another country, right? The mothering that you did not get, that you needed as a child, is what really contributes to a mother wound. And what causes that? I'm gonna pull out my journal here for y'all. So what I've written down is mothers who have their own trauma, their own unprocessed trauma, their own unprocessed stuff. If they are not aware of that, they can pass down their own pain to their daughter. And I say that because it's not about being a perfect mother. It's not about being a perfect person. Like, you don't have to heal all of your trauma and stuff before you become a mother. It's ideal to work on it, yes. But the lack of awareness on how you pass it down to your daughter is really the kicker here. So if you have a mother who was maybe sexually assaulted, or she grew up seeing her mother be mean to her, or experiencing a mother wound of her own or a father wound of her own, if she's not aware, if she's not willing to go in and look at herself and do the deep work around healing that or becoming aware of that, she can inadvertently pass that down to you. And I had somebody tell me one time, I was talking to them and they said they feel like they were using motherhood to hide. And I was like, ooh, basically Basically, she was saying like becoming a mother allowed her to stop focusing, to not have to focus on her own problems because now she had other people to care for. And unfortunately, y'all, a lot of women have babies with the expectation that that child is supposed to save them. And yeah, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. And so what happens is when this child comes into the world and they're not giving them the attention, or they're, basically the child is their own person, their own being, their own entity, right? They didn't agree to this unspoken contract of coming into the world to save you. So when they go out into the world and become their own person, or they want to become their own person, that becomes a problem to the mom who had that child as a way to avoid her own unprocessed stuff. So unprocessed trauma, insecure mothers who have unmet childhood needs or wounds, that's a big one. Highly critical mothers. So if you had a mother who was very highly critical of you, like the way you dress, the way you walk, the way you talk, just things that speak to the essence of who you are, that can also attribute to a mother wound. Because again, it's this idea that the person who created you, or the person who was supposed to care for you and protect you and mother you, did not approve of you. And that is a direct threat to your survival. Emotionally unstable mothers or emotionally immature mothers, again, these are women who expect their child to regulate them. They expect their child to be the distraction they need from having to learn how to regulate themselves. And that's a problem, obviously, because a child needs to learn how to regulate. Like, the mother's job is to teach that child how to emotionally regulate. And so when a woman comes in putting that burden onto her child, it creates this like fragmentation within the relationship. The next one, generational trauma passed down from displacement from a motherland. And this is an interesting one. I was talking to a spiritual coach one time, and she brought this up, like the generational, like the displacement of ethnic groups from their motherland and all the trauma that comes from that can be passed down. So it's like a generational mother wound that's moving from one lineage to the next, right? One generation to the next. And I thought that was a very interesting concept, something that I've never considered before, but it made total sense to me. Parentified daughters, so daughters who were caregivers to their parents, or caregivers to other adults, or caregivers to other children in the family. So if you felt like you were all my oldest daughters or only daughters, I see you. Okay, I see you. A lot of us are parentified daughters because we felt like we had to carry or care for the adults in our lives who were supposed to carry and care for us. Poor husbands. Poor husbands exacerbate. I'm not going to say they cause mother wounds, but they definitely exacerbate it. And let me tell you why. Because if your father figure was good to you or decent enough to you, but he was not good to your mom, if she already is coming in with her own stuff, that can create jealousy, competition. And that's when you start to feel like your mother is like your op. Like, why is this person who I'm supposed to be cool with, who I'm supposed to trust and, have this relationship with, why are they competing with me? Why do I feel like they're jealous of me? It's because the man that they're with is being good to you, but not being good to them. So it exacerbates the potential for a mother wound. And then let me speak to my Black women or women of color. Mother wounds for us can be nuanced because of the racial trauma that comes with identifying as Black or as a woman of color. So for example, like the strong woman trope within the Black community, a lot of mothers feel like, especially if they're single mothers and they are single income household trying to make ends meet, like they're more so worried about survival as opposed to like emotional attunement. So there's a stoicism that comes with not being able to really attune to your children emotionally because either you're so stressed from having to work multiple jobs or you are so worried about covering the bills, right? There's sometimes there can be this, it creates this inability to really connect with your children or your daughter because you're so focused on just trying to keep things afloat. And that can, again, come from the racial trauma, the systemic oppression, the financial oppression of being a person of color in certain places. The trauma from colonial teaching. Let me give you an example. I remember hearing my mom say, she was describing an aunt of mine, and she was saying, oh yeah, she was so light-skinned and everybody thought she was so pretty. And I didn't quite understand at the time because I hadn't done my own work. And then there was another time where she said, oh yeah, she's so pretty for a dark-skinned girl. And it was like, whoa, I had to like stop her and correct her to help her see like that's not okay, you know? And I give that example because when you come from, colonialism has taught us a lot of internalized racism. So a lot of women who quite frankly dislike themselves, if they see certain characteristics in their daughter that are similar to their own, they're now projecting that self-hate and that internalized misogyny or racism onto their daughter. And that is stemming from oppression and colonialism and the learned beliefs and behaviors from those two things. Let's get into the signs, y'all, because for me personally, there are some things that came up for me and I was just like, whoa, it was jarring to realize that I had these behaviors that I didn't like in my mother, but somehow I had internalized them deep enough to practice them as well. And I want to first acknowledge that because a lot of the time we are not doing things because coming from a place of awareness. We're doing things from a place of programming. So I tell people, like I sit with clients all the time and I tell them, if you program your cell phone for the alarm clock to wake you up at 4 a.m. every single day, don't be surprised when the alarm clock wakes you up at 4 a.m. every single day. And it's the same with the environment that we grew up in. If we're programmed to believe something about ourselves, even if we don't necessarily feel good about it or we know that it's wrong, don't be surprised if you now act out that programming. It just makes sense, right? So if I could say anything to you that I needed to hear from myself, is to give yourself grace. Like if you do find that you have these signs or these things that you do that aren't necessarily admirable and you feel like, you know, oh, why do I do this? Or I want you to understand, like, a lot of it is programming. It's not because you're inherently a bad person. It's programming. So the first one that I wrote down is poor self-esteem. So low self-esteem is probably one of the biggest signs of a mother wound. Again, let's go back to the fact that this person who was supposed to care for you, who was supposed to mother you and nurture you, who grew you in her body, did not like you. Like the feeling of not being liked by that person. When children experience neglect or abuse or harm by the hands of their caregivers, they don't say, what's wrong with them? Like they're not consciously like looking outward at the parent. They're looking at themselves and saying, what's wrong with me? Like I need this person to survive. So maybe I should just mold myself into something that they would approve of in order to get the love and care that I need from them. So children internalize beliefs about themselves because they need to survive. And these people, they're depending on these people to survive. Constantly choosing the mean girl, and again, I want to make sure we understand, sometimes a lot of this stuff is unconscious. It can be unconscious. So if you find yourself in these relationships where it's like, there's like a Regina George of the group, or you are kind of like under the wing or under the thumb of a mean girl, or you find yourself being bullied by frenemies, like you kind of like you become the butt of the joke in your friend groups, and it feels like something's off, even though you just chuck it up to like, oh, they're just playing with me, or they're just joking around. No, you're probably with a group of mean girls, and that's probably because you are so used to dealing with the mother who treated you the same way. And so again, the dynamic of mother wounds is confusing because the person who's supposed to love you it feels like they don't, or it feels like they don't like you, or they're kind of like, yeah, they're against you. So it's very like, you kind of don't know what to believe or where you stand and how you should feel. So yeah, if you find yourself consistently choosing mean girls or girls who want to be the top dog of the group, want to be like, want to big sis you, like they say, like, oh, she tried to big sis me. Those types of women, yeah, you might have a mother wound, because it's familiar to the competition and the jealousy that you felt from your mom. People pleasing, I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. Again, you're molding yourself to become what people need in order to get your needs met, which is prime child behavior of trying to survive with parents who maybe don't accept them or love them in the way that they need. Or a practice of boundaries. Now, let me stress the word practice. Okay, I gotta stress that word practice, because how many times have we heard, if you know better, you do better, and then you go out there and you still choose to do the quote unquote wrong thing, right? That's because what you understand consciously and what you have embodied is not necessarily always the same. So the practice of poor behaviors is like understanding your boundaries, but not being able to stand on them, if that's clear. So you can know that I don't like to be the butt of the joke in the group. I don't like when people retaliate against me. However, if you find that people are retaliating against you or making you the butt of the joke in the group, and you still stay with those people and you don't honor the boundaries that you set up to guide your own behavior, then yeah, it might be indicative of a mother wound. Oh, a fear of being seen, especially in your gifts. There's this creator on here. I don't know her name, but I'm going to find her. I'm going to put her in the link to her Instagram in the page. And she talks about how you haven't hit your level of success yet because you still have a loyalty to your mom. And you still have this loyalty to your mom because, like, how does she explain it? Like, the mother wound is centered around not being better than your mom, right? If your mother was always in competition or she was jealous of you, and you found unconsciously that, oh, if I show that I'm better than my mom, I could be harmed, or I won't be loved, or I won't be accepted. So you keep yourself small. You kind of shrink yourself in order to keep this unspoken loyalty to your mother that you won't be better than her. I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense to me. That makes so much sense to me, because especially when you have competitive and jealous mothers, being seen in your gifts oftentimes warrants their jealousy. It warrants their competitiveness. Like, it warrants their criticism, right? So the fear of being seen in your gifts is directly tied to a mother who criticized you all the time when you did show up in your gifts and your talents. Okay. A pattern of choosing emotionally unavailable partners. Yeah. Now imagine, I feel like the mother wound and the feminine, right, are very closely, or just the mother figure and the feminine are so closely related. And when I think about the feminine, I think about what it means to be connected to your emotions and to be connected to the body. That's a big thing. And if you have this disconnection to your body, that can be a sign of a mother wound, because maybe you didn't get the care and nurturing that you needed from your mom. Like, there was this fear of really attuning to yourself deeply out of a need to survive. So the idea of choosing emotionally unavailable partners, it makes sense because you're choosing somebody who feels familiar to that. And then a pattern of choosing hypercritical partners. Child, listen, I remember I was dating somebody and it was so confusing because he would tell me that he really, really liked me and, oh my God, I like you so much. And I've never really liked a woman the way I like you. But then he would turn around and pick apart my outfits, or he would pick apart the certain things that I did, the things that I said, the quirks, like the stuff, the essential stuff that makes up who I am. Not like the way I oh, you left the toilet seat down, or, you don't wash the dishes at night. Like, not things like that. It was like core stuff that make up me as a person, my personality, my quirks, the things that make me me. So it was very confusing because he was telling me one thing, but I was feeling another. And that is indicative of a mother wound. Again, it's the confusion of this person who's supposed to love you, or who says that they love you because society expects them to love and mother you. However, they feel this indifference toward you, and they're critical or they're nitpicky of the certain things that you do. So there's the cognitive dissonance of that dance that happens a lot. So you choose a partner who's hypercritical of you because it feels, again, a lot of this stuff just feels familiar to the dynamic between you and your mother. What else? Again, disconnection from your body. Oh, a high need for perfectionism. And let me backtrack. So a high need for perfectionism. Now, here's the thing about me. I like things to be in place. I like things to look cohesive, but there's also a part of me that has to understand when to just fall back, when to just be like, just let it go. Like, you don't have to show up perfect. You don't always have to be on. Not everything always has to be in place. Like, just fall back, right? Like, that is something that I had to actively learn, because again, when you grow up with hypercritical mothers, you're always trying to avoid criticism by showing up perfect, by showing up with everything in place, every hair in place, everything tight, cross your T's, dot your I's, all that stuff. So yeah, that was a big component for me of healing that mother wound, was allowing myself to not be perfect, allowing myself to make mistakes, right? That was a big thing too. Disconnection from your body. I've talked about that in terms of the feeling, the sensations. Let me first say, every emotion that you have has a corresponding sensation. So you can feel in your body where anger shows up. You can feel where sadness shows up. You can usually feel these things in the body. And you learn where these things show up for you by connecting with your body, by connecting with those sensations. So if you grew up where you don't quite know where those things show up for you in your body, or there's a disconnect from your body, that could be a sign of a mother wound, that you had to disconnect very early in order to get your needs met and survive. Internalized shame. And I don't think people know the difference between shame and guilt. So I'm gonna break that down now. Simple. Guilt says I did a bad thing. Shame says I am bad. So guilt is, for the most part, healthy, because if you hurt somebody, if you harm somebody, you feel guilty. You did something that was not pleasing to someone. So yeah, there's a natural tendency to feel guilt with that. Whereas shame, if you do that same bad thing, you now equate that to just who you are as a person. Like, oh, I'm a shitty person, or I'm a terrible person, along the lines of that. So when you have internalized shame, you completely identify with the behavior. Like it is now your identity, right? As opposed to just being separate from who you are as a person, as just something you did, right? So a lot of internalized shame about how you look, how you show up, just who you are as a person, maybe some shame around your body, maybe just internalized shame. That is a sign of a mother wound. Again, because I'm going to always go back to, you don't look at the person harming you as the person who needs to change or fix themselves. You look at yourself, and it's like, okay, so what's wrong with me? What do I need to do to change myself to be the thing that they love, or the person that they love? So a lot of internalized shame, that can become a normalized pattern for you. Competitive with other women. This was the one that came up for me that I was just like, ooh, I don't like that. I do not like that at all, because again, I'm for women. I am for the upliftment of women. Like the work that I do is to empower women. So when I saw that, oh, there's actually like, I would compare myself to other women, especially when it came down to like a man. oh my gosh, there was this like behavior that I would now like pick apart this woman and like, oh, well, she not even da da da, or she not even that cute, or she not even, and it's just like, whoa, hold on, wait a minute. Like, and when I realized that, there was a lot of grief around discovering that pattern about myself, because one, I think it further made the whole core belief of me being a bad person more real, more possible. Like, oh, I am a shitty person because I do this to other women. However, again, this is why I gave that caveat in the beginning, that it's not necessarily you per se. Like, it's not something that you're consciously wanting to do. It's your programming. And then I had to look back and ask myself, who taught me how to compete against women? And that was my mom. My mother was the one who consciously, unconsciously, through her words, through her actions, told me, like showed me that competing with other women was normal, and when it was not, and it's not healthy at all. So I had to actively learn how to dismantle that within myself as a way to heal that mother wound, that part of the mother wound. So if you find yourself competing with women, not all the time, but a lot of the time, that can be a sign of a mother wound, because it, again, is familiar to the dynamic that you had with your mom, who maybe competed with you or was jealous of you to some degree. And the last one, a struggle to ask or accept help. This is a tough one, because I feel like I think at some point maybe I want to touch on father wounds as well too. We all hear about daddy issues, right? Quote unquote. We hear about daddy issues a lot, and I feel like this can also be a father wound as well. But if you think about this inability to feel safe accepting help, again, it goes back to the very person who was supposed to help you and protect you and nurture you in the ways that you needed, did not like you. So you go into the world feeling like, okay, if I ask for help, is this person going to abandon me? Are they going to judge me? Are they going to not like me? Are they going to criticize me for needing help or asking for help? Or this feeling of, even the feeling of not being, of not feeling deserving of help is indicative of a mother wound, right? Like this need to kind of like, well, I gotta be my own success first. Like, I can't ask for handouts, or I can't expect anybody to come in and save me. I gotta be that for me first and foremost, which, I mean, okay, like, yeah, you are responsible for you, but what's the word I'm looking for? The aversion toward needing any kind of help or feeling worthy of help simply because you exist and you are a human being who needs other humans. Let's finish this out with some actionable steps and activities that you can do to begin to work through this mother wound, or to continue working through it wherever you are in your journey of this. The first thing I feel is really beneficial is to connect to the sensations in your body. And I know it can sound woo-woo, which I am a spiritual person. However, I also like to look at the science behind the nervous system and how the mind-body connection works. I'm always seeing how the spiritual and the scientific overlap. And I say connecting to the sensations in your body, again, because there's this understanding that being able to nurture yourself or heal this wound first starts with allowing yourself to feel the grief, the sadness, the anger, all of the things that come up with the mothering you did not get. And feeling your sensations, again, remember, every emotion has a corresponding sensation to it, and it shows up differently for everybody. It's similar for some people, for a lot of people, but I think it shows up differently for everybody. So you have to gain an awareness of where your sensations show up for you. And to piggyback off of feeling the sensations, we tend to think that if we just think about forgiveness or we choose forgiveness, that it's something that it just like is supposed to follow. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I think if you haven't quite processed things through your body enough, you can tell yourself all day, I forgive, but it's going to continue to show up in the body. So it's really important to sit with the feeling of sadness. Anger is a really big one, especially because, again, society tells us that we should love our moms. Like, what is the one thing you always hear when you're talking about the harm from a parent or from a family member? It's like, well, they're still your mom or they're still your dad. It's just like, yes, I understand this. However, I was still harmed. And so that also can create a lot of shame around feeling anger toward this person because, well, I'm supposed to just forgive them and move on as if nothing happened because they're still my mom. And I want to validate you and say, like, you are allowed to hold space for both truths that, yes, this is your mom, and yes, she hurt you and she harmed you. Both of those truths can stand at the same time. And you are allowed to feel the anger, to feel the sadness, to feel the grief. So that's really what I want you to do. If you haven't done a body scan before, put a comment. Let me know in the comments. Y'all let me know if y'all want me to make a video on a body scan. I think that's really important in this work because if you don't have an awareness, like a body intelligence around where your emotions show up, it makes it that much harder to really process them. Yeah, because we can't, no matter what you say, you can't logic your way out of something that needs to be felt. So I encourage you to feel everything that comes up as you are in this process with your mother wound. And then your assignments before the next episode. Again, I'm the kind of person who I like to give people actionable steps, things that they can actually do to work through this stuff, because talk therapy or just talking about it is not always efficient enough. Okay, so grab your pens, grab your journals, your notebooks, your paper. Your assignment is, I want you to write your grief letter. And in this grief letter, I want you to write about the person you could have been if you got the mothering that you needed. And I know you're probably asking, why would I want to do that? Like, why would I want to harp on something like this? Because it goes in line with allowing yourself to feel. And I think that's the most important thing here. I'm not trying to pull you back into the trauma, or I'm not trying to just like, have you resting in like the negative feelings. The idea behind this is to get familiar with embodied knowing that you are allowed to feel. Your feelings are valid. You are allowed to have them. You are allowed to express them. I want you to write your grief letter. Write about the person you could have been if you got the mothering you need. And also to just go off. Go off, babe. Go off on a tangent. Whatever you need in that grief letter, put it in there. And I encourage you to read it, sit with it. If you have to cry, allow yourself to cry. If you get angry, allow yourself to get angry. What I would tell you, though, is stay away from sending this to anyone. Like, this is for you personally for right now. We can deal with what you want to do with the letter later. But right now, I just want you to simply express and feel. Okay? Okay, last thing. I want to give you some suggested readings, because these are readings and books that when I read them, it was just like, whoa, like very eye-opening for me. The first one is All About Love by Bell Hooks. I mean, this is a classic. Like, when I first read this book, it was so simple. It was just so simple, but so profound, because you start to realize that a lot of people have a very misconstrued concept of what love is, because in Ghost in the Nursery, it's a classic article that talks about how generational trauma is passed down from, one generation to the next. And then the last one is Stolen Woman by Dr. Gayle Elizabeth Wyatt. I read this book in maybe like 2017. I was very deep in my Pan-Africanism at that time. But that book really touches on the history of how colonialism and things like chattel slavery, racism, how they have impacted how Black women show up today. So I think it's a good supplemental read. Now, that is it for episode 1, y'all. So next episode, I will touch on what it looks like to now become your own mother. You got to be the parent now. So we'll talk about that next week. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification to be updated for the next episode drop. All right, y'all. Take care.